It all began about a year ago, during the most stressful time of any student's life, final exams. With the pressure mounting, I knew I needed a quiet place to study without distractions. Thankfully, our school had extended the library hours until midnight just for the exam season. Normally, the library closed at 5 p.m., but the administration understood that students needed more time and space to prepare. Since my house was only a short walk away, I decided to take full advantage of the late hours, choosing the calm sanctuary of the library over the noisy comfort of home. On one particular evening, I left my house around 6 p.m. and settled into my usual corner of the library. The hours flew by as I immersed myself in my books, completely oblivious to the time. It was in tea until I finally glanced at the clock that I realized it was already 10 p.m., much later than I'd ever stayed before. Normally, by 8 p.m., I'd be heading home, and even then, there would still be a few students around. But now, the silence was overwhelming. I felt like the only person left in the entire building. Still, I had just about 15 minutes of studying left, so I decided to push through and finish. Just as I was wrapping up, a strange sound broke the silence. A slow, dragging, limping noise echoed through the library. My blood ran cold. I looked up but saw no one. The sound grew closer, more deliberate. Without waiting to investigate, I quickly gathered my things and rushed out of the library. The hallway outside was long and eerily quiet. I knew that if I turned right at the end of the corridor, I'd reach the school's exit. I moved swiftly, my footsteps sounding unnaturally loud in the stillness. That's when I saw her. A woman was standing at the far end of the corridor, right near the exit. Her presence felt oft unnerving in a way I couldn't explain. As I got closer, the unease grew stronger. I called out, "Who's there?" But before I could process what was happening, she vanished, just disappeared into thin air. A shiver went down my spine. Trying to stay calm, I stepped outside and began walking home. The streets, which were usually lively even at night, were now completely deserted. Not a single person or car in sight. The emptiness felt unnatural. I stared at the ground as I walked, trying to focus, trying to block out the fear building inside me. That's when I noticed a shadow, a long, dark shadow stretching toward me on the pavement. I froze. There was no one around, and yet the shadow was clearly there. Slowly, I raised my eyes and saw her again, the same woman. She was walking ahead of me now, slowly, awkwardly. Her movements were strange and uneven, as though she were injured or disabled. As I walked faster, I closed the distance between us and could finally see her more clearly. Her clothes were torn and filthy. Her hair was a tangled mess, and her limbs were twisted at unnatural angles. Something was horribly wrong. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to stop, to stay away. I couldn't bring myself to pass her. I just stood there, frozen in fear. Suddenly, she turned her head, and in a hoarse voice, she asked, "Have you seen my daughter?" The question chilled me to the core. I was so stunned I couldn't respond. My mouth went dry, and my thoughts froze. Eventually, desperate to get her away from me, I shakily pointed far down the street and whispered, "She went that way." Without another word, the woman turned and limped off in the direction I had indicated. She kept walking until she disappeared from view. I stood there, paralyzed, afraid that if I moved, she might come back. Finally, I broke into a run, desperate to find someone who could help. I scanned the streets for a car, a person, anything. And then, from far behind me, I heard her scream, "She's here!" That was the last thing I remembered. When I regained consciousness, I was lying in my bed. My neighbor had found me collapsed on the street and brought me home. I was still trembling when he told me something I'll never forget. Back in 1998, a woman named Agatha lost her 10-year-old daughter who had been a student at Eden Hill School, the same school I attend. The girl had died in a tragic accident while playing with friends. Agatha was devastated and never recovered from the grief. According to local stories, after her death, Agatha's spirit began appearing around Eden Hill School and the surrounding streets. People claimed to see her wandering, calling out for her daughter, searching endlessly. Even now, she's said to roam these grounds, scattered, twisted, broken, still hoping to find her lost child, still waiting for the reunion that will never come.